It is the holiday season, and we are here to have a nice little pep talk that I think we all need this time of year to talk about money and spending and saying no at during the holiday season, and really during any time of the year. But this is a time of year that this comes up a lot. So, Becca, why don't you kick us off and tell us this little story that came up last week that we were just chatting about?
So last week we had a client come to our office hours, and honestly, what came out of her, I don't know that this is exactly what she came to talk about, but what came out was she had all of these things that she was invited to over the course of the next 30 days. She had Christmas parties, she had church parties, her kids had dance parties, her kids had church parties, like all of these things. It sounds fun when you're putting them on your calendar, right? Like, yay, we're going to celebrate all season. And then there are for this client in particular, there are costs associated with every single one of those parties that they were invited to. And she was feeling like that's a lot of I have to buy gifts for every single one of those parties because they're all, I think, like, what is it?
Gift exchanges and
Gift exchanges, and yeah, like was it Dirty Santa? No, Dirty Santa's not. White Elephant? I don't know. One of those things. Clearly I don't participate in these in these kinds of parties. But we I was like, okay, time out. Time out. I just want to tell you that you don't have to go to any of those. You don't have to go to some of those. You could say no to one of them. And we made her decide on the call. What do you not want to go to? And she was like, I don't want to go to this thing.
right away she said, I don't want to go.
She didn't even think about it, you guys. It was like an immediate, I don't want to go to this party. And I was like, then you're going to RSVP no today. Like, and get it out of your brain. That's one less thing that you have to worry about. We want to give you permission today to say no. And here's how this relates to money and your wealth. Okay, mental health, your wealth, all of the things, right? There are two reasons that we see, maybe there are more, that you could say no to something because you don't want to do it or you don't have the finances to do it right now. And both of those are okay. And you know what's even okayer than that is telling somebody. Like, if you had to tell someone, if they asked, why aren't you coming? It doesn't work for us right now. You don't have to say anything about your finances. If you want to, there's nothing wrong with that also. We have, as a society, been groomed basically to not ever talk about money. You don't talk about not being able to afford things. You don't talk about why you can't go to this party because it's not in your budget. If you do say it's not in your budget, people have like, oh, what do you mean? Like, you didn't put gifts into your budget this year? Not for this. And we want you to know that this can be a choice of yours. It doesn't have to be something that you are obligated to say no to, you're obligated to say yes to, you're obligated to buy a gift for. I'm going to be real honest with you guys, and I had not planned on sharing this. If my family's listening, so sorry. But like, we're not buying cousin gifts this year. We have a lot of cousins in the family. It's not happening this year. And we made the choice not to do it because we have stuff that we need to do for our immediate family. And there's literally nothing wrong with that. And if the shoe were on the other foot, if a family member was like, we're not buying cousin gifts this year, great. Like, amazing. You made a decision that works for your family. Like, kudos.
And we respect it. I think that the other side of that is maybe something doesn't fit your budget and you do want to go. So if there's a party or there's a thing coming up this holiday season, maybe you do really want to buy gifts for the cousins or, that extra thing in your business. We're using a lot of personal examples right now, but that's because this season is really personal. And if you don't have it in the budget right now, it's feeling like it's stressing you, it's weighing on you to have these extra expenses. Maybe it's even just like having to host one of your dinners for this year. That can be really expensive for the person that's hosting. And you do really want to say yes to it. Then there are lots of ways we see with our clients where they'll say the words, I can't afford to do this thing. And when we look at their budget and we look at their money from outside eyes, we're like, there's so much room to be creative within your numbers. You just have to be willing to think differently, maybe sacrifice somewhere else so that you can afford to do this for this month. Maybe that's like, the easy examples, like don't get your nails done so that you can instead do this. Sacrifice, we did a whole episode on that word and how it's not a dirty word. It's a grown-up choice. It's a decision. It can be an intentional thing for you to choose to sacrifice in one area of your budget in order to have more in another area. And we want to empower you to like own that word sacrifice, because I think that there's a lot of honor in sacrifice. And I wish that we had the definition of the word sacrifice pulled up right now. Maybe I should go and pull that up while we're sitting here, because I'm pretty sure it does not have a negative connotation the way that it feels like it does.
I think the way that we defined it last time was like choosing to do or to not do something that you previously were doing or wanted to do.
You're right. We did define it in the episode on sacrifice. So, it's okay for you to feel like something is hard and tight and still want to do it, and then find a way to make it work within your budget. Because at the end of the day, there's so much money to be made in the world. So I do want to empower all of you to believe that there is so much money to be made. I have learned this since my husband and I bought our waste management business. Like, we pick up garbage and we dispose of it for people. And it's like, a dirty job, but it's also this necessary job that so many people are so willing to hire out. And it's like the easiest way to make an income. It's so simple. And I'm like, man, there's so much money to be made in the world. There's so many business opportunities. There's so much available. And so, yes, that is on the one hand, there's so much available to you. And on the other hand, today in your budget, today, as you sit, it's not infinite. Today, you have an amount in your bank account that you have to work within. That can change tomorrow, but we want to empower you to be okay with living where you are today and saying no to the things that don't fit where you are today.
I want you to tell them about your
Yeah.
trip. So I know you've talked in past episodes, I think a few episodes back, we were trying to determine together, Marley and I were trying to determine if her family was going to go on this extra vacation. So tell them what happened.
Yeah. And my family might be listening as well. So who knows? Our family was invited to do an extra trip this year. So we already have a trip planned. Normally we try to do one, like a bigger trip. And we were invited to do an extra trip this holiday season. And we really thought, okay, we definitely want to go. This is something our kids would love to do. And how are we going to afford a whole other trip that we haven't budgeted for like a month out when we have so many plans in the coming 12 months for our money? Like, we've budgeted for so many things that are really important to us right now. And so, it was just a conversation of, okay, how can we afford this then? If we want to say yes, but it doesn't fit the budget, well, how could we afford it? And this is the exact example that I just shared, which is we decided to say, okay, the answer for us is yes, if you're okay with us not exchanging gifts this year for Christmas. Like, the gift will be the time we spend on this trip. It's going to be more than what we probably would have spent on gifts. It's a smaller trip, but that is what we can say yes to. Like, we just said the words, like, we can't afford to do both, but we really do want to do this ski trip. And so I use those words, like, we can't afford to do both. So here's how we can come and say yes to this fun thing with you guys, but we can't do it all. And so I think that, again, like, I can't afford can be really painted as like this dirty thing. I mean, could we afford? Sure. We could just ditch all the other plans that we already have for the new year for our money. Right. But that's not within our value system right now, because what's important to us right now is the plan we've already made. And so we don't want to sacrifice some of those things. Like, we've got some home rentals going on that have been dragging on for a while that can be really stressful on, in living through. And so there's just some other things that are more important to us right now than this trip. So we were like, how can we really just make a way to make it all work? And then just be honest about it. And we own it. I don't feel any kind of shame in using the words, I can't afford to do it all, or that's not within our budget right now. And I think that we need to also release this shame around using the words like, I can't afford that, or that's not in our budget right now. I felt no shame because I've learned to really own our financial situation and what's important to us and what's not. And I can confidently say those words and not feel some kind of way about it.
Well, because remember, the budget is something that you put in place. The budget's not holding you back.
right?
You have set the
Fine.
boundaries. It's your money, it's your decision. You set the boundaries on where the money would and would not be spent based on what you and your husband wanted for your family in the next 12 months. And because an opportunity came up, you filtered it through the budget. You filtered it through your values. What did we want to spend money on? What was our list? Does that fit? No, then the answer is no, and it's an easy no. It's a no that you get to make instead of having to agonize over a decision that would have been easy. A, had you not known your numbers. B, had you already created a plan for the money before it came in and before questions started being asked of you, like decisions started being asked of you. Like this is why the knowing your numbers is something we talk about all the time. It's because it gives you the peace of mind to be able to make decisions quickly and with
Confidently.
confidence that you are making the right decision for your family for right now. And that doesn't mean 90 days from now, your situation could be totally different. 60 days from now, I mean, we've seen clients in 2 weeks change their entire money story because they laid out their numbers and they were like, oh, wait, what? Like,
And
I've been looking at yeah,
nothing actually changed in their money. It's
nothing
just
has
the
changed.
knowledge and the confidence to make decisions because you know for sure the answer is yes, the answer is no, based on what I have and based on what my goals are. My
And this
answer would have been a hard no if I didn't know our numbers.
and you would have felt really bad about it. You would have been sick to your stomach to tell them no,
And
and
I
you
would
would
have
have
been,
felt
oh, can we, can't we, can we, can't we? That back and forth, icky
on the
feeling.
fence. You would have felt guilty, and I bet you $1,000,000 you would have said yes in the end anyway, and you would have been like, "I don't
You
know
know,
how we're gonna do this."
my bougie husband would have said yes because he loves to spend and he loves to, yeah. So we for sure would have said yes outside of our budget without knowing because
Mhm.
that's our pattern. That was our history before we got in control of our numbers. And yeah, absolutely. So knowing our numbers allowed that decision to be much. And I should say, our family was like, absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. That's
Right.
great. Like they're totally respectful in the receiving end of that's what works for you guys. We want to make it work because we want to spend this time together. So great, win-win for everybody.
Also, there's something to be said about modeling how to handle money the proper way to family members who maybe they don't have the best financial record either, track record, or decision making with their money. Just like you model for your kids, you can model for your friends and you can model for your family the way that your family handles money and makes decisions about money and treats your money, pays attention to your money. Like, why do we keep it in our four walls? Like,
That's that's a really, really interesting point, Becca, because I have thought many times, just like in passing conversations with acquaintances or with people where they make a comment about money being tight or money, just like not having enough money to afford something. But when they say it in a way that's like so confident and they're just so self assured and they're not shameful about it at all, like they really are like, oh, that's not something that we could do. But and they own it, I always notice it because obviously my insides would have shame to say that out loud in public. Like my pattern, my history with money and my money story would have been so different. And I always like really, I'm like, oh, like they've got it all together. That's what I always notice when someone confidently says something that could come across as negative. I'm always really impressed by them. And I think, oh, they must really know their numbers. They must really have their stuff together. And that is not something I think I could have articulated before I knew my numbers and before I knew what my story and my patterns were. But now that I know and I have so much awareness around my thoughts and feelings around money and how I used to react to money and feel about money when I wasn't in control, I would really notice those things from other people. And isn't that interesting?
I mean, this is honestly something that I've never even thought about before until right now
Right. Right.
when you were talking about speaking to your family, wonder what your family thought. Like, "Oh, wow, like, they've really pulled together as a team," and, who knows what they were thinking.
Right.
But what if you are the person in your friend group or in your family that models how to take care of your money and how to talk about it and how to confidently make decisions. What if you're the one person that changes someone else's thinking and their family and their generations? Like, we don't think about that enough. We don't think about the effect that we're having on the people around us who maybe don't live with us, that we don't see every single day or even, just a couple times a year. Anyway, we kind of went down a rabbit hole that we didn't plan on, but I think that's something that we should always think about now that we've thought about it. We just want you to know that it's okay to say no. It's also okay to say yes. It's okay to say yes and not have it exactly figured out, but being willing to figure it out and get creative and say, I want to say yes to this really badly. And how can I make this work without not sacrificing, but without throwing all of my other goals in the trash that I've really worked hard for or planned for or whatever. We want you to feel like it's okay to make decisions for your family that work for your family. And if you have questions about how to afford something or how to make something work, come to our DMs. Please come to our DMs and chat with us. We are real live people who talk just like this in real life. And also, if you're not registered for the challenge, it starts next Monday, December the 11th. You are going to want to be in the room. And let's address something really quickly. I think this is important also. If you have already signed up for the challenge, or if you've been looking at the challenge and you're like, I don't know if this is for me, it is for you if you know you need to change your belief systems around money. You know you need to change the way that you talk about money to yourself, even in your own head, that you know you need to change the idea of what you are capable of doing with your money, with your business, with your family, for Christmas, all of these things. This challenge is for you. And if you are also someone who's been looking or has already signed up and you're like, I don't know about the upgrade coaching, let me just tell you, this is a safe room to be in to ask questions. If you do not know what questions to ask, that is what we are here for. That is what Marley and I specialize in. Figuring out what your question is so that we can get to the root of what's keeping you stuck and give you your next action step, give you your next best step. If you don't get in the room, you will stay where you are. More than likely, you will stay where you are. And who wants to be where you are this time next year? We don't. Our families don't. Our kids don't even want to be where they are next year. Our kids even have goals for themselves, right? So you have the ability to do something for yourself before the end of the year. Get in the room, get in the challenge. And if you can swing it, if you can be creative and pull it together, get in the coaching room.
We will put the link to register below this episode, and then definitely you can come over to Instagram. The link is also in our bio over there. If you have some questions, please don't hesitate to message us on our DMs on Instagram.